The current cost of capital before issuing additional debt. Now, what will be the wachacha after issuing additional debt? Our wachacha after issuing additional debt. What is the wachacha after issuing additional debt? What do we have? We have the current value of equity. VE is given. The one we calculated, which is where did we calculate? VE is 405. Is 405. After issuing additional debt, VD after issuing additional debt is 320. KU is still 14%. And our pre-tax cost of debt, pre-tax cost of debt is 10%. Can we still again substitute to get our KE after issuing additional debt? You are using this again. What is going to be the KE after issuing additional debt? Our KE after issuing additional debt would be 0.14 plus 0.14 minus 0.1 into 1 minus 0.1, 0.3 times KD is 320 divided by 405. What do you get? What do you get?
16.2.
16.2. So I think we saw that if we check our curve, as you are issuing more debt, as if you check our curve of Modigram and the mirror, as you are issuing more debt, the K is increasing. I think you are seeing that. So before issuing additional debt, your KE was 15.3. After issuing additional debt, KE is now 16.2. So as you are issuing more debt, as per Modigram and the mirror, the cost of equity of a GRD business will increase. So we have already got, I think, some items here. I'm copying this table. So this one is changing. It is now 405. 405. This one is changing. Is now 320. This one is 0.16 what? 2. This one has not changed. You see? This is now the new wachacha. And this is our OD wachacha. So what is your conclusion? Because that's the question we are answering. the effect of issuing additional debt on Wachacha. Yes. What is your conclusion, comrades?
The cost, as we increase the cost the cost of capital decrease.
Yeah, K is increasing, but the overall Wachacha is going down as you are increasing more debt. So increase adding additional.
Please, sir.
Yes.
Wimbo's Delphine is a customer. Remove her.
Which one?
Wimbo's Delphine. I don't know her.
You don't know her?
Yes.
Okay. Wimbabas, we are removing you from the class.
But it's better to check with him. Maybe she's new.
No, she's not.
Wimbabas, she
She's
sent a message that she's going to see you. That's what she said.
Ubushize namuhaye nimero yanyu ngo nyandikire ntiyabikora. Umushyire muri groupe tuvugane.
Wimbabas first call. He says I will clear tomorrow. That's what she has said.
Yes.
Yanditse avuga ko azishyura ejo ariko.
Mumureke nyaboneka mumureke yige azamishinga Dr. Daniel.
Ikibazo nuko atazwi namuhaye nimero yanyu ngo nyandikire.
Wimbabas, please talk to
Felix.
Ntabwo tumufite muri groupe.
Mumureke na kurangara bibaho.
Talk to Felix, yeah? Wimbabas, talk to Felix.
Dukomeze.
Yeah. She says agiye kukuvugisha.
Sawa.
So additional debt leads to a decrease in Wachacha. That's what the Modigliani mirror are saying. Additional debt leads to a decrease in the Wachacha. So in that case, we conclude that capital structure and the cost of debt, cost of capital are related, because as you are increasing more debt, it is going to make the overall cost of capital to go down. KE increases, but the overall cost of capital will go down. I don't know if you have a question on MM2 with tax. Any question?
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
Is this question concerning MM2 or it's MM1?
It combines MM1 and MM2. Using MM1 to get the optimal value, using MM2 to look at the cost.
Okay.
Yes. So if no question, I think we can look at the assumptions. Assumptions of MM with tax. Of course, some of the assumptions are similar, but one of the assumptions is that.
Please remember also to give us the weaknesses of Wachacha before we finish it.
But that one we gave them, the weakness of Wachacha. You check in the part of cost of capital. No threat to to bankruptcy. If you look at the first assumptions, is that there is no threat to bankruptcy. What does it mean? It means that you can finance your business 100% debt, and the business may not be threatened with the bankruptcy. And in fact, if you look at the Modigan and the Miller one with tax, they say that the optimal, the maximum is when the business is financed by 100% debt. When you are 100% debt, that's when you maximize the value. So they are assuming that the business will not be threatened with the bankruptcy. But we know that as you are increasing more debt, you are increasing the insolvency. The business can become insolvent if you have more liabilities than the assets. But here we assume no threat to. Number two, no agency costs. No agency costs. So we assume that whatever you are doing or whatever the business is going to do, whether the debt is too much, there will be no agency costs. But if you remember when we are discussing the agency relationship, as you are having more debt, the debt holders are going to start disturbing, and that's going to may lead to development of these agency costs.
Then that means this assumption is not correct.
Of course, they have weakness, but we assume that you can finance and there is no agency costs.
When we say that there's no threat to bankruptcy, but in reality, we know that when we have a huge debt.
Yeah, that's why we call them assumptions. But the assumption they are assuming ushobora financing a business 100% debt nta kibazo bizatera kuri bankruptcy. But that is an assumption. Of course, if you are looking at the weakness, you just change this. Ugomba kuchanginga these assumptions, the weakness of these theories, or the applicability of the theories.
Okay.
Yes. Then no personal tax. There is no personal tax. So what they only assume in this one is that the company, you only tax the company. You don't tax the individual investors. So investors can get a dividend. They are not going to be taxed on the dividend, or they can get a capital gain. You're not going to tax. You only tax corporate tax. But we know that if you distribute dividend to the investors, that dividend is going to be subject to corporate tax, to personal tax. If you sell shares and you get gain, investors will pay a capital gain tax. But in this case, we assume that there is no personal tax. You only tax corporate tax. Of course, other assumptions, they are the one we talked about. We assume a perfect market. We assume a perfect market. So those are assumptions, and others we talked about in the previous part. But these are three additional specific to this MM with tax. So that is the Modigan and the mirror, the Modigan and the mirror theories. We looked at Modigan and the mirror with tax, and now we have ended with we looked at Modigan and the mirror without tax. We looked at how does it, what are the issues. Then we looked at Modigan and the mirror with tax. Now, the next we are talking about are the modern trade-off. The modern trade-off is that, remember, these are the assumptions. The assumption of MM with tax. Now, in a modern trade-off, you are looking at the effect. What is the effect of bankruptcy? What is the effect of agency cost? What is the effect of personal tax on the value? So what you are doing in this, you are incorporating these assumptions to determine the optimal value. So the modern trade-off theories,
Lecturer,
yes.
I've already cross-checked. We have never write the weaknesses and the limitation of Wachata.
I don't know, maybe. What is here? Isn't it weakness, this one? Weakness of cost of capital. When you say weakness of cost of capital, that's the weakness of Wachacha. Isn't it here? Or you don't have the
Okay.
whole, yeah. It is there, please check. Please mute incorporates the effect of bankruptcy agency costs, and personal tax on the value and cost of capital. So in the modern trade-off, what we will do is to look at, suppose you allow for bankruptcy, because in the Modigan and the mirror, we assume that there's no threat to bankruptcy. Now, in the modern trade-off, we are looking at, suppose I allow the threat to bankruptcy, what will be the optimal value? Suppose I allow the agency cost, what will be the optimal value? Will it remain the same or it will change? Suppose I allow the personal taxation, because in the Modigan and the mirror, we assume the company is only paying corporate tax. So suppose I allow for personal taxation, how is it going to affect your optimal value? Those are the modern trade-off theory. Now, if I look at bankruptcy and the optimal value, bankruptcy and optimal value of firm. If we make this one, bankruptcy and optimal value of the firm. So as you are increasing more debt, the threat to bankruptcy will arise. The shareholders will start to demand a very high return, so as the debt holders. So the business cannot cannot finance 100% debt as per Modigliani and Emira. Before reaching 100%, a threat to bankruptcy will arise. And when the threat to bankruptcy arises, it's going to reduce the current value or the optimal value of the firm. So as more debt is used in the firm, the threat to bankruptcy will arise. This reduces the, maybe I can add something here. The threat to bankruptcy is associated with costs, which called the bankruptcy cost. Bankruptcy costs, such as legal costs, and the monitoring costs, legal costs, and maybe accounting costs. These will have an effect on the current value. I don't know if I've used the right English. So when you are increasing more debt, the threat to bankruptcy will arise. When the threat to bankruptcy arises, it's going to have an effect on your value because the bankruptcy has got costs. So it's going to be these bankruptcy costs that are going to reduce the current value of the firm. So I would have sketched, but I don't know if I can sketch it. So meaning, because if you look at MM1, if as per MM1, with the tax, VG, we said is equal to VU plus the debt tax shield. The debt tax shield. Is it okay? Now, as we are increasing more debt, we are going to introduce a bankruptcy, or the bankruptcy will arise. When the bankruptcy arises, this bankruptcy, they have a cost. So if you recognize the bankruptcy cost, our bankruptcy costs, which we're going to serve the present value of bankruptcy costs, where PVB is the present value of bankruptcy So what will be the new value? The new value, your VG. So the new value after bankruptcy will be, which is our VG, will be equal to the value of ungeared plus your debt tax sheet, which we saw in the previous, minus the present value of bankruptcy cost. That's going to be the new value of the firm if you are incorporating the bankruptcy. I really don't know if I can sketch. Let me see if I can sketch. If I fail, then because it has these curves that are so VG is equal to VU plus the debt tax sheet. But as per Modiglian, we assume this level to be 100% debt. The maximum is 100% debt. Members, for you are the one who knows how to draw. How can I draw the dotted lines? Huh? Oh, I failed to draw the dotted line. This one we assume it to be.
And choose the pattern.
Huh?
Choose that pattern.
Oh, 100% debt. That's what we assume, that this will be 100% debt. That's when we are going to have the maximum value. Now, we are saying that as you are increasing more debt into your business, you cannot reach 100%. The threat to bankruptcy will arise. And when the threat to bankruptcy arises, this curve will tilt inside or will bend inside. It cannot reach 100% as per the Modiglian. So as you are increasing more debt, this curve will bend inside, reflecting the threat to bankruptcy. So meaning,
Susan,
yes.
may you come back a little on that?
If we consider the assumptions of Modiglian and Emira, Modiglian and Emira, for them they say you can finance the business and the optimal value will be when you are using 100% debt. That's the maximum that you can get. But if we incorporate the threat to bankruptcy, a business can never reach 100% debt. As you are using more debt, you are going to reach a certain point where the threat to bankruptcy are going to arise. When the threat to bankruptcy arises, this curve will bend inside. I don't know if I can bend it with my sketch. I use which one now? Huh? This one? This curve will bend inside. Oh, this one is not working.
The shapes. Try the shapes.
That's why I'm trying, but this one is not working.
Oh.
I'm trying the shapes. Which one can I use? This one, I think. I think like this. Oh, it is bending also outside. Let me first close it. because I want to bend it inside. I needed each one, this one. So as you are increasing, this one is going to, then it, I've taken which one now? Okay, let's assume it's that one. Okay, as long as you can have that. That when you are increasing more debt, the threat to bankruptcy is going to arise. And when the threat to bankruptcy arises, this new curve will bend inside. And in this case, you're going to determine the optimal value at this point. So the optimal value now is going to be this is going to be the new optimal value. The new optimal value if you incorporate bankruptcy. So meaning, what will be the new value here? The new value, as we have said, our VG will be equal to VU plus the debt tax sheet minus the present value of bankruptcy cost. That's how you're going to get the new value, as you have seen it up.
Excuse me, lecturer. Come again on that. We are not following.
You're not getting it. We are saying, what we are saying here is that per Modigliani and Emira, this is the optimal value. And in assumptions of Modigliani and Emira, we said you can finance the business up to 100% debt, where you are only operating 100% debt. Now, when we incorporate the threat to bankruptcy, we realize that a business ntabwo ishobora kugeza ku ijana debt. Mbere y'uko igera ijana ku ijana debt, the threat to bankruptcy will arise. When the threat to bankruptcy arises, it has got cost. It has got accounting cost, legal cost. Abanyamadeni bagiye kujyana mu rukiko, accounting, and other costs, administration costs. All those costs which are associated with the bankruptcy bizatuma this curve to bend inside. When the curve bend inside, at the optimal value, or at the maximum point, that where it is bending, the maximum point, that's where we are going to determine the new value.
If we incorporate bankruptcy cost, no, let's say, can you incorporate the bankruptcy cost? You will determine the value of the farm.
The effects of costs of bankruptcy costs. Nizihe. Abanyamadeni bagiye kujyana mu rukiko, uzishura ba lawyers. Seriously? You are going to you need auditors to do the auditing of your statements. It has administration costs. Businesses guhomba. Seriously? So izo bankruptcy costs nizo zituma value of the business igabanuka.
Okay.
So meaning you cannot ntabwo ushobora kugeza kwa 100% debt before the bankruptcy arises.
Okay.
So that is the bankruptcy and then you have agency costs and the value of firm. Agency costs and the value of firm. Remember we also assumed that there is no agency costs. But who bears the burden of bankruptcy cost? It's the shareholders, isn't it? So the shareholders, the business becoming the management, they are going to bear the burdens of this one, because you were given a business and you have not fulfilled your duty as an agent. The business is failing. So an agency cost may arise because you want to monitor what the agent is going to. We look at these ones. So these agency costs still, which arise because of the bankruptcy, still are going to have an effect. They're going to have an effect on the value. So incorporating the agency costs and the bankruptcy, the business cannot reach this value. Still, the business, you go to the optimal value will be obtained below reaching 100% debt. So the burden of agency cost is borne or is bared by the owners and the directors. So these agency costs such as reputation costs, accounting costs, and others will lead to a decrease in the value will lead to a decrease in the value of the firm. Now, if I can put another curve here, which reflects the agency costs. So meaning here, our VG will be equal to VU plus the debt tax sheet minus the present value of bankruptcy, minus present value of agency costs. And the optimal value, you will get it you'll get the optimal value at here. So these are I think the theories that we may need to look at, where PVAG is the present value of agency costs. So now if you have this bankruptcy cost, you have agency cost, you can determine the value of the firm. Isn't it, friends? I have the value of, I have a value of ungeared, I have the value of a debt, I have a value of a bankruptcy cost. You can determine. If I can give you a simple example, maybe you can do it. Example. Company X is currently ungeared with a value of equity of 100 million. The company is raising more capital to finance its new investment. The capital will be raised through issuing a mortgage loan. Of 120 million. The corporate tax is 30%. The present value of bankruptcy is 10 million, and the agency cost costs is 2 million. Can you do this? So what do you have in your data? Data given. We have VU, which is 100, You have the VD, which is 120. We have the present value of bankruptcy costs, which is 10, and the present value of agency costs, this should be agency costs. Present value of agency cost is 2 million. So what will be the optimal value? Since you have these three, it means your VG will be equal to VU plus the debt tax sheet plus the PV minus the present value of bankruptcy cost minus the present value of agency cost. I think you can substitute that and get the answer. Our VU will be equal to 100 plus 120 times 30% minus 10 minus 2. And you get what? What do you get? What do you get, members?
$124.
24 million.
124.
Yes.
Now, suppose there is no bankruptcy cost or there is no bankruptcy and agency cost. What would be the value? You see that the value is 130. It's 136. If you ignore bankruptcy and the agency cost.
Yes, it is 136.
So you see that if you look at the bankruptcy and the agency cost, it reduces the value, the current value. They have an effect on their optimal value. So I don't know if you have a question on this. I want to personal tax, it's because personal tax still they have an effect. If you incorporate personal tax, you can still they will reduce your agency. They are going to reduce the value. So the last one we are going to look at is the pecking order.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Oh, 124 million, it is the value of VG, not VU.
Okay. So this is VG, sorry.
Yeah.
So
When
now,
we evaluate,
huh?
when we compare the value of the farm, the
Mm,
optimal value of the farm
mm,
after issuing the debt,
yes.
is it less than the value before debt?
Mm. Is it less or it is higher? The value is increasing by 20 because before issuing the debt, the value was 100. That was the value before issuing the debt. After issuing the debt, the value is increasing by 24 million because of the benefit you are going to get on this debt of 24 million.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So I'm not seeing the way you've got 124. Perhaps I'm lost somewhere.
Okay. So look at I don't know because we are substituting in this formula.
Okay.
That the value of a GRD business will be the value of an GRD plus the
Mm-hmm.
debt tax sheet
Yeah.
minus the present value of bankruptcy
Mm.
minus the present value of agency costs.
Yes.
So if you put VU is 100,
Yes. Yes.
so then this 120 times 30%,
120, you put 30% or you put 70%.
you get
You put 70% or 30%.
no times 20% times 30%. The debt you multiply by the tax. Yes.
Okay. So okay. I will redo the calculation.
Okay. So as we are ending this part, I want us to look at this one briefly, the pecking order theory. Pecking order theory, for them, they don't look at the computations that we have been looking at the selecting. So the computation, they are saying that the selection of the sources is systematic. So if you are to select the sources to finance the business, the first source that you should select is the internal source. That's the pecking order theory. The first source that you should use in financing your operation is internal sources. If the internal sources are not sufficient, then you can go to debt financing because of the advantages of the debt. Then, if the debt financing is not, you cannot be able to get to raise money using a debt, then you can go to preference shares. The last option in the theory is the common stock. That should be the last alternative to raise your capital. So you don't need the calculations to look at the cost, to look at the optimal. What you need is to arrange your capital starting from your internal sources to then go to external sources. So selection, or according to the theory, the selection of sources of finance is systematic. Thus, it does not require the calculations of cost of each source. Sources of finance are selected in a given order. As below. Number one is internal sources. That's the first source that you should use when you are selecting your business, your sources of finance. Internal sources.
Excuse
And
me.
yes,
It does require or it does not require?
it does not require. Sorry. So when you are selecting, you don't need the calculations to know which source has got the highest cost, which source has got the lowest cost. When you are selecting, the first source that you should use is internal sources. The money that are generated from your business operations. The second source is to go to debt financing. If you don't have enough money, you go to the debt financing. Of course, if it is a question, maybe you need to explain the advantage if you are to evaluate the pecking order theory. If the question is to evaluate the pecking order theory, of course, if you are talking about these sources, you provide advantage because that's what they are saying. Internal sources, what are the advantage of financing using the internal sources? If you go to debt financing, what are the advantage of financing using the debt financing? Then, source number 3, if you cannot raise money using the
When
debt,
you say internal source, you mean
the retained profit.
return the profit.
Yes.
How about
What?
getting sources from the individuals in the company?
That is still external. You are looking at the money you have generated from your operation, the retained profit. Then number 3, if you cannot be able to get money from debt financing, then you can go for preference shares. Then you can talk about the preference shares. Then number 4, which is the last, is the common stock or ordinary share capital. So this is the order on which or from which you can be able to select the different sources of finance. Starting with the internal sources, go to debt financing, go to preference shares, and then the common stock. So you don't need the calculations. So you should just select the sources systematically. So members, I think that marks the end of this chapter, which was gearing and the capital structure. So it is sometimes it is asked as a separate question. Sometimes you need the knowledge to use it in other parts of the question. So it is also an important part that you should master. So if you don't have a question, we can now start another.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I was wondering if we can get like a summarized explanation on the advantages of, I mean, when we are working on the pecking order theory, like the advantage of financing the business using internal sources, debt finance.
We have a chapter which is sources of finance, which I think we can discuss some of these ones.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have a chapter we have not yet covered. It's called the sources of finance. So, any question?
No question, sir. You can proceed.
So, if no question, we can move on to chapter.